um, and I said, that address looks familiar, 399, whatever, what
The
is it,
Esplanade.
Esplanade.
Yeah.
I said,
Yep.
doesn't that Tracy lady, isn't that her address? I don't know how I remember that. And she said, yeah, it's the same address. I'm like, oh my God. So you've got cool people over there. I'm jealous because you're closer to her than I am.
Yeah. Oh, I'm really close. I haven't met her in person yet. Whether it happens, but we connected on Facebook. I connected with her before she was in Harvey Bay, and then she happened to move here. So,
Well, I
but I also
noticed, huh?
hope that she gets back to you. Really, I just
She
wanted to get
will.
back.
It'll all happen. I'm not concerned. After all the stuff that we've all been through, like we're really gonna not trust the universe now. I mean, I'm good.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna
I told
happen.
her a couple of days ago, if it has to be like this the rest of my life, I'm okay with that. But I don't think that's what's gonna happen. You know.
No.
Uh, yeah, I noticed. I noticed that because I went to your page and I noticed there was a bunch of common, what do they call it, mutual friends, and just like what you were kind of like, what your energy kind of exuded looked just very familiar. So I thought, man, that's a good sign, right? Like that's a really good sign, like that, because I've noticed in the Soulogy demographics, which are now what, like 10 years old, uh, we have like what, seven, I want to say 7 or 8 top cities. I guess the cities are regions. Some places will be cities, so it's like New York, London, uh, Chicago, and then in that top 7 or 8, it's Brisbane, uh, what is it, Melbourne, Sydney, and even Perth. So there's like 5 of the top 8 are in Australia. So I've always felt that that area has a lot of people that are lit. They must be.
Yes, it does. And you've had a lot of Australians on your show, hey,
Yeah,
when I back. So
yeah, we
yeah, no,
do.
I haven't been in Harvey Bay long. I only got here, so I was in Melbourne for the lockdown for the
Oh,
2020. That whole
oh, so you just got there.
I we arrived in January last year, and we just had. I'm from here, kind of as a kid. I had my formative years around this region, and I wanted to come back to Queensland for a long time. I love the tropics, but we were in Melbourne, and when 2020 hit, and it didn't look like it was really getting better for a while, which like let's just take this opportunity to move
A lot of
and
people
live our
did.
life, go where we want to go, and get out of the city was a big thing.
Yeah, yeah.
We wanted to get out of Melbourne because I was from Melbourne, born in Melbourne.
So was Morgan. Morgan
Yeah,
was
right.
born in Melbourne. Isn't that crazy? And then, the other thing that's crazy because she's been doing that mind a home thing, and she actually, it wasn't a mind a home thing. A lady reached out to her and said, "I've got a room and a bathroom," and it was in Gympie, and she stayed there like in between gigs, and it turned out that the lady was from Melbourne too, and they worked it out that they sent me the map. They were actually 1 block away from each other.
Oh, you're kidding.
So there was all this etheric stuff happening. Like when I saw the lady, I said, "Morgan, she's a fairy," and like the next night or that night, Morgan's laying in bed because Morgan's very lit, and she lays in bed, connects, and the lady came in as as an aspect and actually came in to the room with the fairy continents. Let me formally. That we're so unprofessional here. We're just like do it as make it up as we go. But let me formally welcome Michele Joy. She's in Harvey Bay, where Morgan is right now, and I don't know why I start to say that, and then the tears, like, they get that burning sensation in your eyes, uh, and so it's kind of Michele reached out to Morgan, and they're right in the same neighborhood. Hopefully, they'll get to hook up in person soon. But I went to your page, and yeah, I picked up on the energy of you and your husband and your puppies, and I don't know. It was really nice to see. I was like, wow, there's that kind of energy where Morgan's at, and that's really cool. But I just want to say welcome. Thank you for coming in and sharing space with us, and welcome. I mean, I've not been feeling well today. I don't feel well now, but
That's
and
okay. I get the energy's pretty. pretty big
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, it really is. Yesterday was incredible. I don't know about you, but well, I know you're a day ahead of me. And so a lot of times Morgan and I will have like these kind of like, I always watch her because she's like a weather vane, and I'll be like, okay, get ready. But yeah, I woke up yesterday morning and it was, which would have been like the next day for you in the early, in the middle of the night. And it was just it was off the hook. It was so
Yeah.
off the hook. I put up a lot of posts, like probably 1,200 posts a month, and I just was in like sync on the couch, and I got up from a lucid dream. I'm like, oh my god, I got all this clarity. I sent Morgan a message, and then I got on the couch, and I was just like jumped into this vortex with all these people. It's what it felt like. So I put up a little funny little avatar, and I just put weather report, uh, like solar flares and CMEs and, all that stuff that people talk about that I don't understand. I said, uh, when is it coming? Every day, all day, kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
And over 1,000 people hit this thing, but it wasn't the number of people that, liked it or whatever, but it was the comments. Everybody across the world was going, yeah, so something really big's happening.
This is
How long have you been this weird? Or did you wake up were you born this way? Or did you have a traditional wake up experience, or both?
No, I don't know if it was traditional, but I've always been weird.
Yeah.
Um, but I'd say that I wasn't comfortable being weird.
Mm.
So, given kind of my own traumas as a child, and what I was still wounded with, I sought out to program myself and get out of the weird. So I actually went about
Yeah.
trying to, like, I say I'm weird because I always knew as a kid I was soul.
Yeah.
Like there's just no question. I explored all different religions. I explored all different kinds of spirituality, but I was so in my wounds that I wasn't really comfortable with that. And I used to get called a weirdo a lot, and that really used to trigger me. I was like, I don't want to be weird. I want to be like everybody else. Um, Mind you, I come from a family of weirdos. Like we're all, it's not just me in the lineage. But I sort of went, got to get normal. I've got to program myself. And so I went through uni, and I got into sport, and I did all those constructs to kind of, and I wasn't always conscious at the time, but later on I was like, oh, I know why I did that, and
Right.
that.
Right.
Then I had to deprogram myself in 2017 when I started to kind of officially
Okay.
come back online and release some density from my body. I had to then kind of deprogram myself. And my husband, Paul, he kind of helped with that a lot because he was already kind of awake, a 4D awake, like
Okay.
to a lot of this that was happening. And he helped bring my awareness into that,
Have y'all been
which
together long?
9 years
Okay.
this year.
So was this like topics of conversation, like from the point that you met, or okay, I figured it was.
Yeah, like we met in 2013. My life started to change in 2012 a lot, as a lot of people's did. Um, and he was the first person that we sort of started having metaphysical conversations again. And I was like, oh, this is great. I've missed this.
Right.
I really missed this. And it kind of just went from there. And he went down the kind of David Icke
Yeah.
train. I was in there for a bit, and I went, I'm going to get off this train because I just feel I need to be soul embodied, and that's my purpose here. So when COVID and everything hit, I was already kind of had my spiritual awakening start,
Right.
and obviously like a few years before that, and I was like, this is what I know what I'm here for. I felt that very strongly, that I'm here as a way shower,
You
like
you
many of us.
you feel like that COVID was an impetus for that, like a catalyst for that?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. As much as COVID's been, really awful in so many ways, it's been the most amazing thing to happen
Well, you
to
were
humanity.
in, I told Morgan this, like we didn't really understand, as the human aspect of Todd and Morgan didn't really understand, why are you going back? We knew it had to happen, and we didn't. And as time went on, we figured it out because more information would come in. You know how that goes. The universe
Yeah.
says, "Go do something." You're like, "Okay, what's going to happen when I get there?" Don't worry about it. Just go, and then we'll figure it out. We'll tell you. But because she literally landed in it, like it started when she got there. like
Yeah.
the severity of it. And as I was watching it, and then taking into context what I told you earlier about the demographics of Soulogy, which has got to be some type of mirror of the of this type of community, or the collective communities like this. I thought, it makes sense to me, because everyone I've ever talked to, in my own perspective from the U.S., that we've always thought of Australia as this really cool place. It's really progressive and really fair and really empowering to people. And I've talked to Canadians. And this has been our impression. And then you find out that the truth behind the lies, right? So, and
Mm.
it's like when they put the pressure on y'all, particularly in Melbourne, Dan Andrews and all that. I was like, wow, this really makes sense now, because if you've got all those lit people over there, and you're going to have the last place you look for, and will be the place where it's almost like ground zero, right? It's almost like ground zero where the transformation starts to take place.
I 100% agree. A lot of those fair kind of democracy and all of the progressive stuff that I think Australia was known for was really obviously an overlay for
Yeah,
the to keep us in apathy.
yeah,
And we had such a good life here. Everything was pretty good. It was pretty easy. Um, that kept us in apathy. And Australia's, I think, one of the hardest places to wake up. It
yeah.
really, in terms of waking up to the matrix, to the falsity
I
of
think
everything.
so. Yeah, I
We'll
think
get
you're.
there, but
Yeah.
it's slow. It's hard.
Well, one of the things I noticed about Australia too is, when because she went from she went from Adelaide all the way up to Queensland, like a madwoman, driving. So I was with her, like I would even get the map out and say, you got this much time. And the distance between these major metropolitan areas. So you have these really isolated places. Each one of them is like, because if you go to the States, or if you go to Europe, you can drive 2-3 hours and you're in another state or another country. You got to drive 12, 14 hours to go to another major city. So
Hmm.
the way that they're kind of isolated, kind of creates these sub control centers, I guess you would say. But because, I know for me, from like a soul knowing level, like just a soul knowingness, I know Australia. I've known since I met Morgan. I'm like, I know that place. I would describe places to her. I could smell the sea. I mean, but my point is that to me, it represents like the original. Like, I feel like when I stepped on the earth in the first incarnation, whatever that may have been, I was stepping in what is currently Australia today. So like, there's something about the first one in, first one out kind of thing. So I can
Yeah,
still,
yeah.
yeah,
I got shivers when you said that. When you
mm,
said that first step, and I think that a big thing is that our Indigenous people here, our first people,
yeah,
their DNA is so sought after.
yeah,
They hold a lot of the keys and the codes to where we need to go. I mean, they're very connected to the Palladian energy, and they're under attack. They've been under
yeah,
attack since colonization, and
yeah,
that's also really sad. So that's probably another element to it as well.
yeah. Yeah, I saw a really powerful. It was kind of like a movie documentary on Prime Video, and I can't remember the guy's name. It was a story of a guy named William something. He was a prisoner, so he was working in a prison camp somewhere around in Victoria, what is currently Victoria today, and he ended up. There ended up being some kind of catastrophe, and he got away, and he lived with the Aborigines, and it was mind blowing. Like, it was basically a narrative or a biography of his time there, and he ended up going back to England, and his story became known. But yeah, some of the stuff that was pointed out in this documentary or this movie was incredible, just in terms of the way they function. I mean, and I say this in the best of ways, they functioned as part of the let's say the family of kingdoms, plant, earth, animal, I mean, and even with each other, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting. They've got a really interesting culture, which just doesn't really fit with
Yeah,
white fella. If they don't, they're already
yeah,
quantum.
yeah,
They don't do well with linear. They're
Yeah.
not in time. And so that's why they're so special. And I'm sure, the Native Americans and the Morioris, they're gone now, the Maoris in New Zealand, they're all similar. They're
Yeah.
quantum already.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
true. Very true. Africa, South America, there's places. I'm sure there are places even in Asia and in Europe. So you're in I mean, you are in a partnership. You're both having these conversations from when you first met 9 years ago. So 9 years ago would have been what, 2013 or so. Um,
Yeah.
Close enough to 2012 because that seemed to be kind of like when somebody shot the starter pistol. How
Yeah.
do you think we're doing? Like you've been in a hot spot. You've been in Melbourne. I can't think of a place that would have been more of a pressure cooker. I know it's eased up now, but these first what 18 months of COVID were like just I don't know to say it was idiocy or just it's so blatant, so in your face, the oppression and and just the irrationality of it all. I mean, you went through all that, and of course you've made the choice to go to Queensland, which seems to be a little bit looser. But like, how do you think we're doing uh, as a whole?
I actually am quite optimistic about it. I think we're doing really well in the
Yeah,
big scheme of things because I can compare what the consciousness was like in Melbourne, and I also, I don't go get out of the house much, although I will be more that I'll be doing more in-person healing with Tracy Center. But
mm,
I don't when I do have conversations, the conversations are open.
yeah,
It's like what COVID did was cut through all the crap. We don't have the small talk conversations anymore. It's allowed us to go deep
right,
into what we feel is going on, what's the kind of biggest element here. People are talking about their healing. So I feel like compared to where we were, we've done great. Yeah, is it still dense here in Australia? Big time. But compared to pre 2020, much
wow,
better. So I'm really optimistic. And I feel like if you can't see it at the moment, it's because you don't want to see it. I mean, you won't see it. It's just at the moment you're sort of holding on to the tangible, and you can't see what's right in front of you. Some people don't have the heart to see just yet.
yeah,
I feel like it's coming, like there's another wave of awareness coming. And so long as, I also received at the start of this year or the end of last year that this is a year that we have to step into alignment with our souls.
right,
This is the like big year, like a pivotal year. From here on, we need to be aligned. We need to be speaking our truth. We need to be cutting through all the bull, and also those choices that we've been finding hard to do, like relationships that are out of alignment, living arrangements. It's time to try and bring all that back into alignment and just be,
yeah.
who we're here to be. And I feel like most people are doing a pretty good job at that.
I do
They're getting that.
too. I'm with you. I mean, I obviously talk to a lot of people, and everybody has their own perspective, and I respect their reality. But I just, I've always been kind of an optimist anyway, a positive attitude, happy, But uh, I just feel like we've beat the dead horse enough. How much more information do we need in regard to the energetics of the boogeyman or the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it? Like,
Yeah.
what's the other side of that? What are people's higher sensitivities, skills, abilities are actually natural to us are coming into the fold now, and it seems like the more that we engage that, the more it grows, which makes sense. I mean, where you focus your attention grows, right? So,
Yeah.
are you seeing? I mean, you're a practitioner and a healer. Uh, are you seeing a change in your clientele over these past couple of years? Are you seeing more people awake? Are you seeing people come in that have been awake but that maybe have a wider perspective? Are you seeing any change in the nuances of doing a session with people? Is that changing?
Oh yeah. The nuances of my session work is changing all the time, and it's getting more sort of, I'll say out there because it's just avant-garde. It's stuff that I don't even know what's coming through. I just have to trust it's coming through from my Christ light. And people are okay with it. That's the
Yeah,
thing. It's like, when I first started delving into spirituality, I was attuned to Reiki 25 years ago. And it's like, everyone knows what Reiki is.
Right.
now. But what I'm actually noticing with my clients, to answer your question, is I've had a few blokes come in, which is really nice, and they're just waking up and they're coming online, and they're not also, not just men that their partners have sent them. I've had a couple of those, but they're open to it. And I think as the divine masculine is healing now,
Yeah.
and as the true divine feminine's here, this is where we're going to get big changes. And I see a lot of people who are just going, I don't know what's happening, but I'm wanting to tune into my soul. I'm like, well, you've
Wow.
come to because that's what I'm about. Because we're soul, we are soul. We just want to
Absolutely.
embody it.
That's right. That's our hashtag. I am soul. Just leave
Yeah,
it at that.
that's why I love your show, because this is
Yeah.
when I was a kid, that's just what I knew. I
Me
was like,
too.
I'm a soul.
Yeah.
I didn't, and I explored everything. Like my nan was a devout Catholic, and I went along to those masses, and I was just like, no, I'm just not buying your idea and concept of heaven. And then I tried other Christian and I tried pagan and everything. I was like, no, but I don't know about all of that, but I'm soul,
Yeah. Me too.
and I don't know, what's going to happen after that. And I get more of an idea now as I've explored those realms. So, and I know that we're multidimensional.
Yes.
That much I know as well.
Yes. Yes, you brought up a couple of things. You segued right into what I was going to jump into, but you also brought up something else which I want to jump into. But you brought up there's obviously there's been a lot of talk about the feminine and the masculine, divine feminine, divine masculine, distorted masculine, dark feminine, and all the different terms. They're all parts of us, but there really does seem to be like this year, there does there seems to be like I remember for me, it coincided with meeting Morgan, which was September 2015. And I remember because I'd been on Facebook for 2 or 3 years doing Soulogy, and you would always see, you never saw anything about Divine Masculine. You always saw Divine Feminine's here, Mother Goddess is here, get ready, hurry up, guys, and all this stuff, right? And you can see the evolution, more humility, because that was a big download for the earth and for the women, in general, I think. And then it kind of reached a point where you started, I think, I want to say like toward the end of last year, I started to notice that there was this other masculine presence that was starting to come out. And it was very similar to what I was seeing in these women that would come on the show. Many of them would come on for the first time. Like they were being given a place to speak now that was safe. And so slowly you could see that expanding until it just got big enough. But I started to notice this, men were stepping up. Now you're in a relationship, and I've noticed that there's been some parallels between Morgan and I that kind of follow the collective dance, right? What have you noticed you mentioned that some men have been coming into for sessions, but what have you noticed in the recent months that might add to that?
Well, I think, I'll be interesting to see if when I'm in person offering sessions face to face at the healing center where the men come in, because this is a kind of different, at the moment online I got people coming in from all over the world. So,
Hmm.
and a lot of my clients are from the US and Canada. And so I kind of don't want to, diss Aussie men. And I'm not meaning to do that or put them in a box, as I'm not into boxes and labels, but Australian men are still got a ways to
Yeah.
go, I feel, to coming in, because there's a real toxic masculinity
Right.
that's everywhere, but it's very prevalent here. And I talked to my partner Paul about this as well, and I know he's always trying to kind of, he's the chrysalis trying to come out and get out of that. But I feel like men are finally given a voice now, and when you have a session, you have a group, there's still going to be, a prominence of women, but there'll always be a man or two, which is what I'm finding, like in my group healings. They might not come and attend live, but
Hmm.
they've booked the replay, and
Right.
so that's it's like a stepping stone, and maybe they'll attend live another time. It's
Right.
like I feel like men haven't felt safe in spirituality, really. They felt
Hmm.
a bit outnumbered. Um, and it's not very masculine to be intuitive, and it's not very masculine to be in your heart, and all that's changing.
Hmm.
But the women have to kind of open their arms and their heart and say, come on, come in, it's all fine. You can still be a male. Like you're a pretty good example of this, Todd, I think. You can still be a man,
Mm-hmm.
and you can still be intuitive, and you can still have all of these heart experiences and soul experiences, and it doesn't make you any less of a man. And I think there's been a kind of energy where men felt like they were, is it demasculated
Yes.
if they
Yes.
into the spiritual stuff, into the woo woo.
Yeah, you couldn't
And
be
we,
soft, right? I mean,
yeah,
I think you really bring up a good point because we've spent a lot of time, and rightfully so, that 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 part of the feminine makeup, which really isn't all of us, but I mean, we're seeing it. Obviously, it's represented by what you see in these communities, in these groups, the percentage, the proportion of gender, and but that she was silenced. Like there was a part of her that wasn't able or safe or allowed to speak, and now, well, I guess what you're articulating that I couldn't, and I will now, is that there's a part of the man that hasn't been able to speak, and
mm,
it's what you said. It's like any guy out there knows. I mean, you can't be soft in this world going back through the past few decades, whether you're a kid or whether you're a man in the corporate world, and really you can't survive that way. You can't show your emotions. You can't show. So you're right. This is a big step, I think, that seem to be into now, which I'm excited about.
yeah, I think we're really in at this sort of precipice with the male energy coming in, because just as much as the divine feminine had a number done on it, there was
Yes.
definitely manipulation there, but the men just as much. And yeah, okay, we've had this patriarchal society and
Yeah.
it hasn't been healthy, but historically in tribal cultures, we've had men and women as equal and holding
That's right.
spiritual roles, but maybe different. But we're going into unity consciousness, and to me, I was like, even that was divisive and it played a role. But now we're going to go into what a man can do, a woman can do, because we have divine feminine aspects within us and we have divine masculine aspects within us. And that's part of the herogamic union
Yes.
that we need to balance within us. So it's not even about whether we're male or female anymore. At least I hope that's where we go.
Yeah.
It's just going to be your soul.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. I can tell you, I'm digging my feminine. I really, I mean, I know it's always been there. I've always been sensitive to it, and it's, but as you level up, there's always a higher vantage point. You see more, and so it's a never-ending story. But it's really come online, and I'm not afraid to show it. And I think that's something that hasn't been allowed, and so much of what we do, like you were saying, just being, like it's okay to just be me. It's okay for you to just be you, and whether you're a
Mm,
man or a woman isn't even the point. You're a soul. Not to take anything away from the gender that we've chosen to be, but it is two different paths. As you know, you've been in a relationship for 9 years. Uh, One thing you learn in these relationships, because there's such a close mirror, when you get down to it, you realize I don't know what it's like to have come from where she came from, and vice versa. But
yeah.
because the fact that the patriarchal was constructed with men as the symbol or the vehicle, they were still prostituted. They were still disempowered. It's just a different journey, and the way it got embedded, I think we've done a pretty good job of untangling it now that we can kind of see the light that, hey, we can actually do this in as complements to each other within ourselves, as well as externally.
100%. Yeah, I think, it's part of the disclosure. Men have definitely been hoodwinked and been used
Yeah.
just as much as women have. So yeah, 100% agree with you.
I mean, you have, I mean, I have a very similar outlook to you. Like, you know, we need all these different perspectives, but you don't seem to be, I'll just say this, you don't seem to be phased by the big picture. You don't seem to be phased by what's being presented on the global stage, or COVID, or Ukraine, or you really seem to be focused on the circles closest to you, like your work,
Yeah,
your family, your partnership.
absolutely. I said, and being a guide doing my own healing. That's what we're
Mm-hmm.
here to do, to
Mm-hmm.
put all the pieces of us back together so that we heal the separation. I dipped my toe into it, of course, in 2020. I was in it,
Yeah.
and it was a real minefield, though. Like I probably spent 6 months researching, figuring all this stuff out. And when I felt like, okay, my intuition was right in the first place, I don't need to know anymore. And now
Right.
I see it as pretty 4D. Like I see it as like a stepping stone that we all need to go through.
Yeah.
It's not unhealthy. We need to go explore. We need to go learn. But now I just see it all as a stage. They're all playing a role.
Yeah. Of course.
From the highest level, even the worst beings that are kind of doing the worst stuff, from the highest level, it's for our highest good.
Of course.
Because that's what we need to sort of come out of this slumber.
Yeah.
And that's the way, the outlook I take now. And so none of it bothers me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. At the end of the day, they're all stories. They're all narratives.
Yeah.
And even like they mentioned like with the David Icke thing, uh, we had him on a couple times, and the first time he came on, I said to him, how do you like, how do you come back with, resiliently with what you're pointing out and what's, like he couldn't go to Australia because they banned him and all that. And I mentioned, I think I used the term dark, and anyone that watches the show knows I consider it all the same. But
Yeah.
he said, I don't look at things as good and evil. I look at things as information, and I get the information, and then I take it into my heart and my gut, and I function in alignment with my purpose, or what I believe my purpose is. No different than me, no different than you. And I was a little bit surprised. I loved the answer, and I thought, wow, well, if he can do that, and if you look at his story
Yeah.
is very similar to everyone that comes on this show and in these communities. It just doesn't have the people don't know about it to the degree he's not there. He's much more public, but yeah, I feel like that's what's happening. What you were talking about at the top of the show, how through this experience in Melbourne, it's actually created this pressure that's, people stayed at home, especially where you were. People stayed at
Hmm.
home. They didn't go to work. They had to like spend time with family members and really actually be present. The kids staying home. I mean, the energy of the kids not being in those spaces and being allowed to, if you think of it energetically, it's been a real gift to us.
It has. It showed us polarity.
Hmm.
We had both sides, and it also showed us where you place your awareness, how you perceive it is what you're going to get back. So some people went, this is amazing, I've got more time at home with my family, and some people felt the pressure of that because the kids were home. And so I think that was a lesson for us in how we perceive everything. Right now, and what I'm noticing is that there's some people out there that are having a really hard time with, we're all at different levels.
Right.
Come on, hurry up, wake up, come on, come. I want this to be over. And it's like, well, it's an individual process just as much as it is a collective.
Yeah.
How you perceive it is going to be what you're receiving back.
Yes.
Personally, I'm perceiving that we're moving along quite well.
Me too.
And I'm quite pleased with what I see around me. Yeah, of course I want everyone to wake up, but if your soul chose to wake up, it's going to wake up.
Yeah.
It's the way it's going to be. And everybody, and if you want to ascend right now, you can. Lisa Transcendence Brown's there. There's plenty of people that have, maybe not plenty, but there's a few people that are already in their Christed bodies. It's an individual process. And I think there's a lot of people kind of uncomfortable and waiting for the collective and waiting for this shift. And they're like, is it really happening?
Yeah.
That's because it's an individual process.
Yeah. It's that whole external validation thing, right?
100%. Yeah, 100%. So it's an internal journey. And the more we kind of come to understand that or understand that, the more we'll know that it's you want it to be over, then it can be over, but you got to get that density out of your system.
Yeah.
You got to get that ego, dissolved and come back to your soul.
It sure seems like it's getting flushed out this month.
But we're getting a lot of help, aren't we? I mean, the sun is doing its thing.
I mean, that's crazy. That when I woke up yesterday, I came out of a lucid dream, which was just like I have great dreams, and this was like I had to send Morgan a message. I was like, and I got up, and the first thing I saw was somebody had made somebody that I knew who doesn't normally state things like this. There was 17 expulsions from the sun just
Mm.
in that few hours of the morning. And like I said earlier, I mean, everyone was on the same page. So there seems to be something happening, and we could describe it as everyone's coming to the same timeline, but it's almost like, people talk about the event, right? Which gets a little old for me, but the idea conceptually, take linear time out of it. What is an event? The event has been described as everyone's going to know the same thing at the same time, right? So that's what it feels
Mm.
like to me. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like that, like things are being laid out in such a way that we're all coming to the same conclusion, kind of thing. It's just if we try to put the old linear timeline on it or the clock on it, it brings in all those elements that aren't even real, like waiting and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I think that's a really good kind of analogy. I mean, I don't know what else it could be. Yeah, I think the sun, we're having multiple events,
Hmm. Every
really,
day,
with what the sun's
every
doing.
day, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So now you mentioned that you found Reiki 25 years ago, something like
yeah,
that. So, and I know a lot of people start with Reiki. Now, like you said, though, everybody knows Reiki now. Uh, and I'm just curious because, if you watch a show, I'm a big believer in Morgan and I, we're the big believer in the experience itself is the teacher, right? So if we can share our stories, again, taking the linear out, the things that you were going through, the things that you experienced might help somebody today, because there are a lot of people that are coming to the same, going through the same experiences that we've gone through. It's just not on the same at the same time on the linear time scale. But like, is that how it started for you? Where did it go? Were you guided to go to Reiki? Do you have like specific guides? What do you connect with in the universe? Like, what are your go-tos? Can you just kind of tell
yeah,
me how that evolved for you?
yeah, sure. Um, it's back in I think it was 19, I don't know, 1998 or something when I found Reiki. It was just because that's just what was around. It was in Melbourne,
Hmm.
and we found this healing center. A dear sister of mine who I'm still in contact with, and we were very much sort of traveling the spiritual journey together. And I quickly became aware that I was a really good energy channel. It just was like, but I was only young. I was only 24 or something. I was still very wounded, and I just wanted to be a party girl, and I did, and I kind of left all of that. It was all too serious for me,
Hmm.
and I also didn't gel with the master.
Yes.
Also, the Reiki master I had, who was also trying to teach me other spiritual modalities, as much as I liked her, she was very in her wound as well, and she was much older than us.
Okay.
She was in her 50s, and I just was like, I don't really feel like you're the right fit. And I did explore paganism and covens and all kinds of things, and all I really got was the not so good elements.
Okay.
And what I've actually just recently been shown in a meditation was that I had a number of points, choice points along a timeline to wake up, but they weren't the right time because I hadn't done enough healing, and I needed to do a lot of trauma healing, and then that was going to be how I was going to help people.
Okay.
I was going to blend the spiritual, energetic stuff with the trauma.
Okay.
Now, I then went and retuned to Reiki because I wasn't that comfortable with that master. But then, even then, I don't like having symbols put in me. I'm like, we can all channel energy. We don't need symbols.
Right.
We're absolutely limitless. And this is kind of the stuff that I've come to more recently. But in that journey from that 24-year-old or whatever I was to now, I went off and I did a lot of partying, and I did a lot of addiction stuff, and I avoided a whole bunch of stuff, and I tried to be normal.
Yeah.
And drugs made me feel normal. They made me feel confident. Um, they made me forget about stuff, and they fit me into like a party box. And I did that until I was late 30s, early 40s. Like it was, it was a long time that I kind
Should
of explored
don't feel
with
bad.
it.
I didn't stop till I was in my 50s.
Yeah, and I don't feel bad because it showed me exactly what I needed
Yeah.
to. There were points along there that I was like, "Why aren't you done with this yet?" But
Hmm.
it was just because I hadn't healed enough
Yeah.
yet. I was so anxious
Yeah.
that I had to heal my nervous system, and the drugs weren't helping, but I had a really shoddy nervous system. But now I'm so grateful that I kind of the point in the timeline where I came back online because I knew that ascension was what I was here for. Like we
Okay.
all are, but I knew that I was supposed to kind of quickly come online, quickly go and do a lot of shadow work and get myself to a point where I could start to blend the trauma work with the energy healing.
Right. Right.
What I'm doing.
So you kind of
Yeah.
had a heads up, uh, like I've asked Morgan this, back in the day. So I would say to her because she started getting the information like in '99, about the same time you found Reiki, and I said to her, so you knew, you were told that this was all going to happen. She said, yeah. And then as I talked to more people, they were told the same thing. Like, so, and you really summed it up well. Like, uh, you know, clean up your stuff, lighten up your frequency. Uh, there, you're going to have this transformation happen as a result of transforming or transmuting your traumas, and then that's going to be teachable, like you were saying, and
Yeah.
you're seeing more evidence of that. Uh, so that's what happened to you. Did you have any specific guides, or do you have like one singular energetic voice or feeling or Claire that comes online for you?
Yeah. So for me, when I was younger, I had the clairvoyance, I had sight. My father and my brother do have it too. So I guess you would call them, they're able to be mediums if they were to use it in the correct way. They can see.
Wow.
And I had that as well as a young child, but I didn't see anything too pleasant. I kept seeing some really kind of scary stuff, and I guess I went into fear. Um, and then, but after sort of, it was, I guess, whatever the energy, clairsentience and claircognizance is my strongest gift. So I'll just get woken up with a download
Mm.
often. Dream. I'm starting to have, I guess, what Amanda Lawrence calls it, learning dreams, but I've
Mm-hmm.
had to program myself to have those so that I can receive information in the learning dreams. I don't work with guides anymore.
Right.
I I used to. I got kind of, my guides didn't always give me accurate information, and so I it was part of the learning journey for me. I was like, well, what's going on here? Um, am I just delving into the astral and getting kind of illusory trickster beings? And I think that's what was happening.
Yeah.
So now I just work with my own
Soul.
universe, my own higher
Yeah.
self. Yep.
Yeah.
And God source. I mean, I do work, the Lyrans are probably my highest
Okay.
uh, kind of beings in this time matrix. And I do, if I'm going to work with anyone, it'll be the Emerald Order, the Lyrans. And that's it. It's me, my higher self.
Yeah.
I just get information from straight down, and I connect to God source every day.
Yeah.
So one thing that I think is really important about what we could do a bit better, and what I'm trying to do, is make ascension and spirituality much more simple.
Yes.
Yeah, because it can get so convoluted,
Yes.
it get really heady, and really like there's layers and there's this and there's stages, and they might all be true. And I have gone down those roads, and I do feel that there's truth in it. But if you get really stuck there
Yeah.
in those layers and stages, then you're going to go into your ego, and you're going to go into your spiritual ego,
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
and then
good
you
point. I'm glad you
can,
said that. I'm glad you
yeah,
said that because there was so much emphasis on our traumas, and I think we all understood we are not our traumas. We're not. That is not our identity. And then we have these different faces, let's just say, of the universe that present themselves. Everybody gets their own feedback or their own connections, and we could over attach or over identify with those things, which is
yeah,
limiting us. Now we've seen this happen. I mean, you see the evolution. I'm like you. I mean, there'll be times that something will come in, but it's more of as a messenger, and there's more in the symbol of who it is or what it is. That's
yes,
part of, like it makes sense. Like if it's going to be, I'll just make something up. Like if it's going to be, let's say, healing, or say decalcifying the pineal gland, it may be Saint Germain you'll see a picture of him, and it's really the color, the ray, and so on. But I guess that's part of embodying. I don't know what your view is on that, but like you worked with different guides. I'm like you too, though. I question everything. I noticed certain imperfections, let's just say, or egoic patterns or agendas that they had. I thought, well, wait a minute, you're all making me up, and so each part of you has a specialty. So rather than crucify you for that, I'll honor that, but you're part of the whole, and we're a team, kind of thing. So for
Yeah.
you, it sounds like it's very similar, and I've noticed other people move in that direction where they're really dealing with their soul. I guess to keep it simple, they're dealing with their soul.
Yeah. I mean, we're here to embody the soul,
Hmm.
and I think, yeah, there's actually higher multidimensional parts of us in the soul,
Yes.
our oversoul, and we've got our avatar, and that's true. I feel that. I'm connecting with that now a lot more. But get to the soul, stay in your heart, and everything else will fall into place. All the aspects of your light body are going to come online. Your
Yeah.
DNA is going to activate
Yeah.
if you just stay within their heart. Now, the heart definitely is more complex than the fourth dimensional heart. I know that I've activated more within that. But that will happen once again once we dissolve the ego and we do our healing.
Right.
And we recognize that we are not our traumas. I see traumas as programs of the matrix. And once you sort of
Yeah.
start to perceive it as that, it provides a little bit of distance,
Yeah.
and you can deprogram what
Yeah.
you've been programmed, because I've done it. And then, so
Yeah.
what I've done myself, I then go and try and help others with. So it is pretty simple.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's not hard while you're in the middle of it doing it, but and self-love is a big thing as well.
Yeah. Well,
We need to bring.
the what you said too, I think is important. So I just want to go back to it. Like what you're saying is, because there's something about the human, like the emotional quotient of the human is a superpower. It's just been hijacked and siphoned and such, but that's on us now. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's still with us. So I don't want to sound insensitive or robotic, but like what you're saying, and I picked this up from Morgan, it took me a long time to kind of like assimilate it, is that when you start to look at it as a program, it depersonalizes it from a human perspective. So I'm no longer going to take things personal that come my way. It's not about that person. It's actually something being presented to me for me, right? And I can go to work. And I have got to the point now, and I would have to say this year, where I see this as 100%. Like it's an all or nothing proposition. I can't make an exception, because if I make an exception, then I'm still rooted to that which we're coming out of. And I think another point that you brought up that's a really good point is that simplifying what we call spirituality is very doable, and it makes sense because it is really a simple, profound truth kind of structure. And the reality is that we have to get real, because even in these communities where we are awake, right, we're bringing elements of duality into it. And if we deny it, we're just living in the same pattern that we broke free from, right? So it's kind of like you got to
100%.
walk the talk now.
Yeah, that's this year. This is the year
Yeah,
to start walking the
yeah,
talk. I think it's a really big, and it doesn't matter where you're at. Just do what you can,
yeah,
and it grows and it expands. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
I had a young girl come on here years ago, and I used to ask everybody differently. The question, are you weird? Did you wake? And I would just say, when did you wake up? And everybody would have their story. And so she came on. She was about 25 years old. And she came on and she says, this morning. And I went, whoa, that's right. I mean, like, there's that simple, profound truth. And so I've thought about that in the last couple of weeks. It's come up on a couple of conversations. And I thought, well, why am I thinking of that? Because it's really applicable now. Like, it
Mm.
really is. I mean, we really have to be like that Etch-a-Sketch. And, and we do, this is yesterday, you get up, and then you start again. It's not like you're losing anything. It's kind of like these downloads coming in now. Like, they're coming in so massive, I don't know about you, but I stopped trying to figure them out a long time ago. I'm just like, okay, whenever I need it, it'll show up, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like I used to write them all down,
Mm,
and now I just like, look, they're going to happen so frequently. If it's something that I feel like it's like, okay, that one you can do a live in your little group, and just share
yeah,
it. But most of it, some of it's just for me anyway.
yeah,
But we're all having downloads now, and I think that's what people are going to start to realize.
yeah,
There's nothing special about people who are getting downloads. It's just that connection is there. It's open. We're all having downloads. We've been
it,
having. I was having downloads when I was fast asleep. I just didn't know it.
right.
Is, back then, well, I say fast asleep, but I wasn't. None of us are really that. We're not completely asleep
No,
because we still have some of us activated, but we've all got intuition.
yeah,
Those little flashes of this. But most of us just push that aside.
yeah.
Now, all I think that's happening is it's becoming more profound. There's more clarity with it, and maybe we're listening to it a whole lot more.
I think so. I think so. So I know it fascinates me. That's why I love talking about this stuff because I go to bed at night going, how many people, I ask all these questions and all I hear is, doesn't matter. Shut up. Go to bed. We're going to go to something else. It doesn't matter. If you knew everything, then what's the point of being here, right? It's like we designed this perfectly. I mean, who better to fool you than yourself, right? To
Oh,
design something to fool yourself, right? I was going to ask you, like, because I'm really curious because of your energy, like, what do you do in session? Like, what do you normally do? What are your go-tos? How do you? I know it's become more of a customized one-to-one kind of scenario as the days have gone by. Uh, you don't really know all the time what you're going to get into. But you mentioned earlier when you started the Reiki that you realized you were an energy channel. Now, is that like verbal or is that more of in the body, transferring energy, that type of thing, or all of the above?
it's all of the above, but I think the thing that that I do the most is my throat chakra. So I use a lot of verbal
Oh, yeah.
stuff. I don't put any symbols in anybody, and I do like when I'm working in person soon. I'll be using more hands on, which would be lovely, but I don't need to because it all just comes through verbally. So I take people on a journey, and what happens is they're doing a lot of the work themselves because I'm just facilitating and holding space and setting the space, taking them on a journey and helping people see what's in their field. The whole point of what I want to do is, I don't even really like the term healer because I just want to empower people
Right.
to be able to do what I do for them, for themselves,
Right.
because you can do that and just to trust their intuition. And they may do it a little bit differently to me, but that's
Right.
okay. There's no wrong way. So I use a lot of words. I use light codes and language. I use sound tones. Sometimes I'll start singing. I mean, I don't know what tones are going to come through. My light language will change as well. I'll use feathers, crystals, like whatever I get told.
Whatever makes sense at the time. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'll connect my higher self with their higher self.
Yeah.
Sometimes, quite often, their higher self will tell me, okay, I'm a seventh dimensional higher self, or I'm a ninth dimensional, or sixth dimensional. And so I'll get that information,
Right.
and whatever aspect of their multidimensional universe will come through is what's needed for what they're going through.
Yeah.
So
Sounds,
that's,
yeah, it sounds a lot like Morgan. And when I say that, I never really got introduced to that until 2015. I had a lot of different experiences, and certainly on my own, but also in collaboration with others, mediums, psychics, this type of thing, that would just come into my path. But I started to see what you're talking about in 2015 through my personal relationship with her, which was nobody's going to do this for you.
yeah,
There are people that are like cosmic switchboard operators or giant towers that can pull in this or that have that function.
yeah.
Just as we all have maybe different functions, and so they complement somebody to find the doors. It's like you take them to the place for them to discover themselves. And this is what I
100%.
was referring to earlier, how since like late 2019, I noticed it on the show, that is because a lot of practitioners come on the show, and how they started changing their whole their whole demeanor, their whole approach changed, and it was obvious to me. And as I keep tabs on other platforms, just for my own information, to apply, energetically to what we do here, I noticed that older paradigm of teacher is falling. It's not sticking anymore, and now it's very much about self empowerment. Whether it's a conscious or unconscious, session or whatever, but it seems like that's what's happening. Like people are looking to themselves through these types of practitioners such as yourself, which is a great sign.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is too, because it's like we're all soul, we're all empowering ourselves to do what we can do and getting our gifts back online. And that's why this might trigger some people, but I don't use Reiki anymore. And I actually never felt an affiliation with Reiki. I feel like Reiki was really amazing on this planet for a while because our frequency was a bit lower overall,
Yes.
what we needed. But now we've surpassed Reiki,
Yeah.
for example. But I think if you want it as an introduction to energy, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's quite earthy. You don't need to follow the master constructs with it or anything like that, because I don't get into the master guru thing. But once again, that construct was helpful on the planet for a time. We've just outgrown it.
That's right. It makes sense, because if I want to go out in the back here in the little forest and build a fire, I don't need to get a flint and a rock and and blow on it. I can go get a lighter and a little bit of lighter fluid. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know what I mean? So, and this is another thing I noticed too, and maybe you can speak to this or give or take away from it, whatever, because there's no right or wrong. But what I'm noticing with more frequency, it's more prevalent, is that it used to be you become aware of something, and then there's a time period, or initiation or indoctrination or whatever, and then you get it, you embody it. Now it seems like in many cases you become aware of something and boom, it's done. Not through the old modalities, not again that they aren't useful at times or whatever the case is, but it seems like the space between awareness and what we call embodiment or transformation has lessened a lot.
Yeah, I really agree. I mean, I guess because we're moving into no time,
Yeah.
and time's been that part of that density that we're trying to, transcend. So things are happening instantaneously.
Yeah.
People are waking up overnight and very quickly, much different the way, I had to go about it, or maybe you had to go about it. But so there is no norm anymore. It's just
That's
like
right.
everyone's
Yeah.
experience whatever they're going to experience.
Yeah, I'm
And
with
we have
you.
to just, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm like, I would rather set my sights on teleportation, light body. I just cut up a little bit here. Light body, sacred sexual encounters with Morgan. Bilocation, the
Yeah.
telekinesis, talking to animals. Like, I know that the more I give myself to this, and it's always been there. If you look back, like you were saying earlier, the more we gave to it, the more it gave to us, and it's actually coming back now. It's coming back tenfold now. I mean, I can just think of this month since the first. I've had at least 10 or 12 experiences that I would consider divine episodes or paranormal by standards of 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. I'd be like, oh my God, and I've written about a couple of them, but they're the norm now. Or like you said, there is no norm. Like everything just went out the window, which is the whole reason of the Etch-a-Sketch. You just clear the page every morning because
That's it.
it's a totally
Time
different. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's no rules. The only rule that I can see is you stay in your heart and you eliminate judgment and ego and fear, and
Yeah.
especially fear, because fear is this matrix. That's the
Yes.
virus of what we've been overlaid with. We get out of that, we come into the frequency of divine love
Yeah.
for the all. Like, was it Ramdas who was always saying, we see each other as a soul to soul. It's just, that's all we have to do.
That's the
and
number
get rid of
one. isn't it? I
Everything
mean,
else will work itself
I,
out then. And if we're judging because we're being shown something that we still have to resolve within us.
that's right, and that's a hard pill to swallow. I don't care how much love and light you think you've downloaded, but I was talking to somebody about that the last couple of days, and it was it was along the lines of, I had this process that I would use every day, like for the last several years, and people that make me uncomfortable, I would go to their Facebook page and I would look at them, and I would say, until I see my face, until I see us as each other, and I would take it as far as I could, but I've gotten to the point now, and I got to believe it's not me. It's as the individual goes, so goes the collective, like what you were saying. Like I've gotten to a point now where I'm not there, but I've depersonalized it, so I'm not getting the sting anymore. And
Yeah.
so it's very easy for me to just put that, and I'm not ignoring it. I just say, that's done. I can't change it. I've learned from what I need. I do a lot of forgiving of myself for judging
Hmm.
myself, because that's where it starts. If I did something that hurt somebody, forgive me for that. But as soon as I've done that, I'm done. Like there's no
Yeah.
reason for me to carry it with me now. It's just going to deplete me, and we've played that game for too long.
I 100% agree. We move into that place of acceptance, surrender, all that kind of energy. It's very beautiful. It holds you. And that's where I think that's what people will start to realize more and more. Many people have, the ones that are just waking up now, they'll probably have a quicker journey, is what I
Yeah,
kind of receive. They're
yeah,
going to have to go through all of what we've been through, but in a shorter space of time.
right.
And we're going to be holding space for them, showing them the way,
Yeah,
and that you don't need to hold on to stories. You need to forgive yourself. We were unhealed then. We're still unhealed in a lot of ways, but it's still a process, isn't it?
yeah.
Every day, every single day, we're doing the work.
Well, we don't have a choice. Is there anything that you want to do, or would you? I don't really know. Like, I, I, I don't know. For some reason, I would like to hear you, but I don't want to put any pressure on you at all. Um, I don't know if you want to do like a blessing, or I don't know what you do, or if there's something you want to share, even if you just wanted to say something to conclude things. Um,
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, maybe I'll just bring through some light codes
okay,
and just close down the space.
okay, that's
Okay.
nice. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So just coming into the heart space and just bringing through all the learnings, all the expansiveness, all the codes from this session, from this beautiful soul chat, into the hologram, into all aspects of the hologram, to all versions, to all dimensions, heart to heart. Kurishia katunu ma kiana tua karishiata kamana aiti yana ata kata. And I just thank Todd's higher self, and for all those who have watched live with us or another now moment, to Morgan, beautiful beloved Morgan, and just give thanks that everybody does what they can do, the best that they can be with these energies that are unfolding. Move into a space of forgiveness and love. Just work with the energies, not against them. And just sending everybody so much love and so much compassion for what we're moving through. But we so got this, we came for this. And so just remember that your soul, you chose this, you came for this. And I'd like to close down this space with some more light codes now. Kurashia makatia kurana tia karanata. Kirashana katumuna kiana katianotu. Shimaya yena kianatu yena ata. Kurashimana kaina tu kirinya tishiata unuama akata. Namaste.
Namaste.
Bless.
I love your energy. Thank you.
Yeah, I love yours too.
Thank you. If you and your husband ever want to come on, let us know.
Well, he's still, so it's funny with him, he woke me up to a lot of that 4D stuff, but he's still kind of He's starting to come online more and more.
Well, I
And
mean,
I guess I
it's no
told him,
pressure.
but he is a beautiful soul, a powerful soul as well. I
I
mean, we all are, but
I picked up on
he's,
his energy. I picked up on his
yeah,
energy looking at your stuff. I don't usually go to people's pages, but I was intrigued because you're over there in Harvey Bay. But yeah, I'd love to collaborate with you again individually if you're open to it. Later in the year
definitely.
if you're cool with that.
I would love that. And you have to accept my friendship request first, Todd.
Okay, I'll take care of
Look,
that. Thank you
because
for
I'm like,
thank you for telling me. Thank you for telling me. I'll do that right
I'm
now.
like, I know he's a busy guy. He's probably
Uh,
gonna get to it eventually. But anyway, thank you, brother.
all
Peace.
blessings to you. Peace
Yeah,
out,
you too.
everybody. See you to